Hi there, welcome to episode 10 of the Business of Real Estate podcast with Lynn, Hoffmann, and Eric Johnson. Today's episode, Who's in Your Room? We're talking all things networking and how to get out there and network with other people and build up your business and build up your relationships. And today we have a special guest joining us. We will introduce you to him right after this. Hey, welcome back everybody. Here we are, Who's in Your Room? We're talking all things networking. And Lynn, I want to introduce you and our guest to my very good friend, Rav Badial. He is...
Nice to meet you both.
He is. You, what's the official title now?
Executive Director / franchise owner of BNI Ontario Southwest.
There we go.
Yes.
So just full transparency, Rav and I joined BNI, I don't know, about 12 years ago. Rav happened to be the president of the chapter I went into. We became good friends. We both became directors. And then when Rav took over the district or the region, he brought me on as a launch director. So I've worked with BNI for a number of years. And I thought this is a great opportunity, Lynn, for us to talk about networking, because I think that's the one thing because we filmed an episode talking about prospecting,
right.
Networking being one of those. And I think it's something that's overlooked by a lot of realtors.
Absolutely. And they don't realize the sources of relationships that they have in various different fields, and they're not honing in on those people.
Yeah. And Rav, you've seen, through your journey with BNI, networking, and it's interesting that when you first got in, because you were a financial advisor.
Yes. Yep.
And looking to grow your
17 years.
Yes. And you were looking to grow your book of business, really. And so tell us about how you got into networking.
Yeah, for sure. So in 2004, I got married, bought a house, became an advisor. And so I selected a company that was really known for training, and that resonated with me. So it wasn't about selling, it was about taking care of the clients, doing the right thing for them. And the training managers at that time, 2004, 2003, it was cold call, knock on doors, or send out letters. That's what they recommended to drive sales. The first two petrified me. Like I've never. So Eric used to laugh. It was I would look at the phone, the phone zone, and I would talk myself out of every cold call. Yeah. It's too early. It's too late. They're having dinner. I'll call them back later. Now it's dinner time. They're putting the kids. Anything psychologically to talk myself out of it, I would just back out of it. It's Friday. I'll call them Monday. It's Monday. They're too busy. The letters one, it was a little easier for me. I think I sent out 100 total, and I got one sale, so it paid for the postage. And then door knocking, there was just no way I was even going to go
Sure
on
you're
that
not an agent in your past life?
So I avoided any sort of talking to people, right? And so there was another advisor at that time that was involved in this thing called BNI, and I was like, what is this? And he was putting up big numbers on the board. So he was in Guelph at the time. And so I attended a meeting with him in Guelph, and I was like, this is me. It resonates with me. It's every time somebody spoke, it's I know a guy, or I know a gal, or I have somebody. And so from there, I started a chapter, as we call them, it took a few iterations in Cambridge, like 9 or 10 people with people that I knew. So a realtor, mortgage agent, so on and so forth. And then that's pretty much it. And that's how I grew the business. So for me, I was like, I got to go all in because I don't have the pockets to compete against the big financial institutions that are advertising at that point. They had all the yellow pages. I'll date myself. And, I had my BlackBerry and that was about it, right? So, I went all in on these relationships and solidifying these connections and grew my business. I guess I'm losing track of how many years it was. It was 2004 to 2019, so 15, 16-ish years, and I grew it from referral. So fortunately never had to advertise, or not that there's anything wrong with those avenues, but just on a shoestring budget, went all in on BNI.
Yep. And the benefit to networking obviously is gaining those referrals, but along the way you develop those relationships,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about that in another episode, where it's not just about prospecting, because you can go out prospecting, but it's developing the relationship so they will not just use you, but also refer you. And I think that's, you know, we've talked about in the past when I was with BNI is that it's not just a networking organization. It's really about referral marketing, right? And I think there's some tips, and I want to talk about this, is when, you know, if any of our agents or any of the agents that are listening to this podcast, and in fact any business owner wants to go out there and generate referrals, there are some things that you can do, whether it's in a group or one-on-one, but I want to specifically talk about in a group right now. So I go into a group, and let's say I want to start one. So, you know, what's one, like when we go into it, if I'm thinking of starting a group, who do I want to reach out to? So what are some of the exercises? I know we used to do a few of them, but you know, we talked about the florist. Your sister introduced that aspect of the florist and identifying. So what are some of the exercises or things we could do to identify those key people?
So there's two ways to go about it. I'll talk about the way that I think as a realtor would make sense if I was a realtor. And it's in a good way, it's acting selfishly, saying, how do I fill my pipeline, right? So the first thing I would recommend is, who is my target market if I was a realtor? Now, we may say anybody, somebody, that's really wide. So I'll pick on one, and I could be way off. Let's just say someone that's downsizing. They're empty nesters. We've got a retired couple that's selling their house. They want to go to a condo, as one example of one target market. So what I would look at if I wanted to start up a group or networking, even if it's informal, doesn't have to be BNI, I would look at who else is going after that same demographic, because that's the most efficient use of my time and money, right? And so it's going to be a financial advisor for sure. It could be a CPA. I don't want to get depressing, but it could be perhaps a funeral home, where we're pre-planning our funeral now, we're doing our wills and estates, so an estate lawyer. And so instead of all of us chasing that end client, we're expending a lot of calories. If I can align myself with people that are also pursuing that client, then we can refer back and forth and create that circle. It's a much more efficient use of time and money. And so that might not be which one you were thinking of, Eric.
No,
so it's we call it a power team, but again, and then there'd be perhaps another demographic. I could be chasing or pursuing first-time home buyers. Well, now I'm going to look at event planners and photographers because maybe they just had a wedding, or whatever the case may be. So again, just to go back, if I was going to start a referral group, informal, formal, I would look at aligning myself with other professionals that are pursuing that same client.
And you're leveraging their database. Because I might reach out and I might get, I might find, say, 50 clients, but then you're one of those other key people, and you have another 50 that I've never talked to, don't know who I am. So we're leveraging everybody. Not to mention that moving forward, like if you were to do a trade show, you could leverage and partner up. There's a lot of, I think that's something that a lot of business owners don't even look at or think about, is partnering up, right?
If I may jump in an example. So as an advisor, the KW Expo at the Bingaman Center, it's one of the biggest ones we have in the Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge area. And so when I was initially as an advisor, they were like, put up a booth. Well, if anybody goes there, they see an advisor by themselves with a banner and I'm selling my wares, they would avoid me, like they would go 3 aisles over, right? Like, whatever you're selling, I'm not buying. And so you see the same old, same old. You're going to see 7 advisors. You're going to see 7 realtors. So with these teams, what's interesting is if you have 4 or 5 people there that aren't wearing the same uniform, and it's us 3, and we're in different businesses, we're having fun. There's low pressure. We've saved the cost. I'm not alone. We can invest in like a basket or a giveaway. And we've done this with BNI, where people are like, hold on, what's this excitement? Why are all these people over here? And then they naturally come over, and we're not selling them anything. Sorry if I'm hitting the mic, I apologize. We're not selling them anything. We're inviting them to a meeting or to have a coffee. And so it's just, it's much more comfortable for them to approach. And so it's a lot more efficient, again, like you said, for marketing, whether it's, we've had some realtors in, I think, in the Cambridge chapter that you were part of, the closing package. They would put all the referral partners on the back. So they're sharing the cost of that portfolio. And these are people that they know, like, and trust, that they vetted. And so it's win-win for everybody.
What have you experienced when you've been out networking in the past?
Well, I've never been part of a BNI, but I've been asked to speak on
Which is awesome.
like that before. I think this is terrific because everything I've heard you say so far is things that we've already discussed in some other podcasts. So it seems like we're really on the same track and page. I think it's a fantastic way to work with people to fill their pipeline. And I agree with you. It's not as overbearing when people are coming to talk. They're talking to a lot of people at once. They're in a group of people. I can see a lot of value. I've talked to my agents before about making not formalized BNIs, but gathering together, electricians or plumbers or different tradespeople that they may use in getting a property ready.
Right,
And
exactly.
getting a bunch of people, like-minded people together and having coffee and muffins or whatever in the morning early, but sharing referrals and actually working on that plan of getting each other referrals for a similar target group. So this is making a lot of sense to me this morning and how it fits into the regular package, what we're instructing people to do.
If I may, do you ever hear pushback from realtors where they're like, well, I gave this electrician 17 clients, but I'm not getting anything back?
All the time.
Yeah.
But the purpose is, it's not about that.
Right.
It's about giving.
Yeah.
And it's about
Give
pushing,
again.
giving and giving,
Yeah.
and it will come back at some point to you. Again, open to receive and all that other good stuff. But no, it's not all about the agent. It's about the greater good of the group and giving in the group, and that is what I think is the ticket. What works. But I did have to laugh about your comment about the phone calls and call reluctance and so forth, because that again is another thing they don't want to do. So again,
they're not alone.
I gave 18 referrals to the lawyer. I gave this to the lawyer. I gave this to this, and I haven't gotten anything. Well, be patient, grasshopper. It will come back if you keep doing it.
And we've this is where this came about. This isn't something I created. It's been around almost 40 years now.
Yeah.
And so the reason I asked that question was that's a common thing for sales professionals, whether they're in financial services or realtors, is saying I'm giving, and it's not transactional based, but we sort of compare BNI to a professional sport.
Yeah.
So either I can play house league, hockey on Saturday mornings, sort of like a coffee club for networking, or I can play travel. Hockey or semi-pro, and now people have to show up to practice. They all got to put in the time, and that's sort of how we compare BNI.
Yeah.
And so we, it's not one for one, but we do. People have to show up, and they've got to put in a little bit of effort. There's a time investment, and that's when everybody starts to benefit. And you start getting chapters where the one in Burlington, they've got 52 members. I'm not here to sell BNI, sorry. We'll go back.
Yeah.
52 members, but they're doing about $4 million a year in commissions.
Yeah.
And so it just gives that accountability and that structure to the process. But if you have someone that has 10 people and they're having coffee at a Williams, why not? As long as everybody's showing up. And because what ends up happening in my experience, I did this with the Williams on Hespel Road in Cambridge. I'd be there, I'm like, I got to get business. And then, it went from 9 to 7 because it was informal before BNI. Everybody's busy. And then I won't name the individuals, but because they're still in business. But then it went down to 5 because they're all busy. Then I'm like, well, I'm busy too.
Well, we just talked about that.
And they're not showing up. But I'm like, so am I lesser than them? So this sort of brings in BNI, sort of the bad guy, where we're a referral group, and we bring in the accountability.
Well, that's the thing. Everybody wants accountability till they get it.
Yeah.
And then when they get it, they don't want it anymore. We're just talking about, muscle reflex and giving yourself permission to fail, permission to quit, and not showing up. But I have found that if there's a group of people, the people will show up if somebody else is showing up. Yeah. If they can get out of it, they'll still go for the other person, maybe not for themselves, but they will go. So I think you have a better success rate. My folks, a lot of them just want to put out letters, passive-aggressive type of marketing, passive marketing. You really need to be working together with a team and pulling, working.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was I'll go back to me. It was a false sense of accomplishment, right? I would send out letters. Oh, I'm doing something.
You're doing something.
But and then you come home and you shuffle paper. For me, I'll pick on me. I used to shuffle paper, update files. I was exhausted.
Yeah.
But nothing actually.
But you hadn't done anything.
Right. And you and I would talk about this until I was exhausted. So it's interesting because the best thing about BNI and the worst thing, the best thing is you become friends, relationships. The worst thing is friends. And so when you have a coffee club, if the three of us are meeting together, I don't want to hold you accountable because now I don't want to burn that bridge. You may give me a referral down the road, right? So sometimes it's a little tricky to navigate from like if it's informal.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to upset Eric, but he's not showing up and I was here by myself. So what do I do?
You upset Eric.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is we've talked about this a few times in some of our episodes, is always about tracking. I can't measure what I don't track.
Yeah.
And so measurement becomes a key thing in networking. And that's where the consistency, I think, comes in, is that when we start tracking and we start doing things, now I become a little more consistent in my actions, right? So there is that tracking aspect that you need to do to know who's showing up, who's doing what. It shows me, and this was a phrase I shared before we started filming this episode, was I said, I have this phrase, it's, are you committed or interested? Because if I'm committed, I show up every week, I do everything I need to do. If I'm interested, I show up when it's convenient.
Yep.
Right? And I don't do the things. And I develop the relationships when it's, if I'm committed, I'm working to develop those relationships. I want to talk a little bit about hunting versus farming. Because that was always a big topic. And
for sure.
We've talked about
this too.
That you know, as a realtor going out prospecting, you do need to hunt a little bit. But when it comes to networking, it's a little different. Right?
We've I didn't coin the term, but I love it. It was Cindy Mount, if you remember from BNI in Toronto, spray and pray. Where how many times do we go to like a chamber event, right? And well, I gave up 45 cards. But it doesn't work out that way where we're going to get necessarily somebody's going to call us and say, hey, do you want to list my house tomorrow? Or do you want to sell me life insurance, right? So it's spraying and praying, and we just hope for the best, and maybe we'll send a follow-up email. So the hunting is just that. It's spraying and praying, and we all do it. I'm going to add you on LinkedIn, and instead of developing the relationship, I'm just going to go in and say, you know what? If you don't ask, you don't get. By the way, Lynn, great to meet you. Do you want to buy my widgets? And so we all do it, right?
We do.
And we
I don't,
maybe
but
not you
I
too.
get
Maybe
them.
but I mean, so it's Ivan Meisner, the founder of BNI, calls it premature solicitation.
Yes.
Right? We're hunting, we're spraying and praying. And so it goes back to your initial point. With farming, we're planting those seeds and we're playing the long game.
Yeah.
But it's tough as a realtor because if I'm in the printing business and I'm networking, I'm going to get somebody's cards. Someone's going to want to print some pens. I'll get that referral right away. And so with realtors, it might take 4 or 5 months of nurturing those relationships, planting the seeds to get business back. So yeah, the hunting, we call it spraying and praying, where we're selling our widgets, hoping for the best. That's sort of a no-no that'll turn people off, whether it's chamber or whatever the case may be. The farming is bringing value. If I add you to LinkedIn, I did this week, I added somebody, and it's saying, if you see anybody on my contact list that you'd like to get connected to, let me know and I'm happy to connect you. And then leave it at that. A week later, I may touch base again and say, you know, I'd like to learn more about your business. Right. Would you like to get a phone call or a coffee? And being genuine about it, knowing that I'm gonna nurture this relationship and things will happen down the road, and it might take 2-3 months.
Or years.
Yeah. Well, especially real estate for sure.
Sometimes it takes longer. But we're all on the same page here. I love this.
It's
what we preach is what we try to instill in our people.
And it's key. And I think, you know, if you're out there and you're looking to do networking, one of the things I want to make sure is that, and I've seen this, and Rav and I used to, there's a couple of business owners we used to say, like, they would get up and say, oh, I sell this and I sell this and I sell this. And it's really, they're just selling. And so you kind of tune out. And it's much like you as a realtor, if you're out there and you're going, again, the social media, you have it, hey, just coming soon, just listen, sold. And all I see is houses, and you're just talking about selling houses and houses that just sold. So when I go into networking, and again, I go back to, it's called referral. If you look at it as referral marketing, I take a different mindset and I go, I need to teach people how to refer me. Because I always say, Rav, is that, you know, I used to say, if I go into a restaurant and you were to see me, you're sitting with a friend and we wave and I go to my meeting, you're sitting there, and I would say, you know, that person next to you says, well, who is that person and what do they say? And most people, because they haven't built the relationships or taught them how to refer, they go, oh, that's Eric, he's a realtor, or that's Eric, he's a business coach, or that's Eric, he's whatever. And so now I just got lumped in with one of 1,000.
Yes.
Right? So it is important to teach people how to refer. Would you agree?
Agree 100%. So if I can use your example with the trades, right? I'm going to imagine I was a realtor, and Gotham Khanna from London, Century 21, and BNI that you started that chapter. He's phenomenal at this. Shout out to Gotham. Sorry, not a Remax agent. So, but
okay.
So
okay.
if I have a room of trades and it's informal, I'm having coffee or I'm
Yeah.
having lunch. The natural, what we see from our realtor members, the natural reflex is for me to go into stats. You know, we're up 30% over last year. Rates are up, and I'm sort of selling to the room. But what we want to focus on, if we can, is to coach our sales team. This is our sales team on how to look for business for me. So we have keywords, key triggers, but it's basically asking them, this week I'd love a referral for your clients, families, or friends that are downsizing.
Right.
Or first-time home buyers. So instead of selling to them, because they're going to say, well, the stats are great, but what does it do for me? And so we want to give them the ability, when they hear something, if they're at Starbucks or they're fixing a house, okay, Rav's a realtor, I heard this, and Rav told me this is how I get him in the door.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so that's what we coach all of our members on regularly, reminding them, saying, this is your sales team. It's not a buying club.
Right.
We're not.
No.
And they may buy from you, like Joe Romeo in Cambridge. He's a Remax guy. He is getting some business from they have 30 people in the chapter, but by him coaching them on what he's looking for and how to make that connection as they go about their day, they hear someone wanted to buy a recreational property. Like, hey, my mom and dad's, and now they want to buy a cottage. Okay, I got Eric. Here's what Eric told me to say, how to get him in the door.
So I want to go back to one of your things you just said, and one of the things I've taught my agents is, I'll say to them, ask your client, if you were referring me to a friend or family, what would you say about me?
Yeah.
Love it. Yep.
Coach them.
Love it.
I mean, we all have done this. We've all been on an airplane and we hear the word real estate. Like it could be 20 rows back, but we hear it. And our brain is wired to hear certain trigger words.
Exactly.
But then what do you say when you hear those words?
Yeah.
And how do you follow that conversation? But I think you've really hit the nail there, and it's how you train each other to work by referral and to refer each other.
Yeah.
And how do you know what they're saying about you when they do so?
Doesn't it go back? Sorry, it goes back to we were talking.
It does.
We were filming an episode just recently, and we were talking about that filthy P word called practice.
Practice.
Right?
Yeah.
And
But
it's when you teach somebody this is how, like when you hear this, I want you to ask this question or that question, and that allows you to introduce me. But you do have to, like, the simple fact is that I may know what I think, say, an electrician. I remember there was 2 electricians in a couple different chapters, and one focused on commercial, the other did all the little jobs, but didn't want. And so you had to understand what they wanted, and I had to know what to ask to make sure it was the right referral.
Yep.
Right.
So there's a couple of words that may have come out, a strategy, since you've left that chapter. And so just to kind of quantify this as a gift to the listeners, planning, bragging, complaining. So we use these as trigger words. So as an example, I may want to help somebody buy an investment property in a university town, right? Brock, wherever is close by here. Fanshawe? No.
No.
Not Fanshawe.
No, we have Brock and
sorry,
Mohawk.
Mohawk. Sorry, thank
Sharon,
you. Jeez.
Mohawk.
Okay, Mohawk. So I may just say that, and I'm like, I don't know anybody. But what we're going to use is the word bragging, right? So, hi Eric, my name is Rav Badial. I'm a newly licensed Remax agent, which I'm not. Today, an ideal referral for me would be a family member that you've heard brag about their son or daughter getting accepted to Mohawk. That would be a great referral for me because I can help them with student housing. There's a shortage in KW of 5,000 people. So using the word planning or bragging or complaining to show our referral partners the trigger words and then what to say.
Right.
So someone's complaining about not having space. Oh, I got 2 kids now and they're both under 5 in my situation and the stuff's everywhere. And you're like, well, I have a solution. I have Eric. He's the best realtor in this part of Ontario. He can help you get some more space.
So you just did what we both talk about. You listened for a need. Well, in this case, you asked for a need. You listened to the need, and then you acted on that need. But you have to listen, and you have to ask the right questions to get to that point. And I think our agents and agents in general ask the wrong questions. They're not asking the questions that get them the information that they need to dig down deeper, the motivation, the need, whether it's taxes are too high, they need to be in a better school catchment, all those other things that people are drawn to. So Got to do a lot more talking, less talking, more listening, and then
And see,
acting.
as
on
you're
the need.
listening, for opportunities, we can bring that value to earn that trust, right? So I'm not just selling. So if I hear somebody talking about taxes or CRA, I've got a CPA, and as I'm bringing that value, they're like, "Wow, Eric just keeps referring
That's
me,"
right.
which is what he did all the time.
Great
Eric
people.
knows everybody. He knows, every time I bring a problem up, Eric's pulling out his Rolodex or BlackBerry at that time, whatever it was. And so once you start bringing that value, you've earned that trust. Now they know you, they like you, they trust you, and then you'll get reciprocity. It'll come back around.
It does, and you become the expert that they need in all things, not just in the one thing that you deal in. You've become an expert to help them with all their needs. These things to me are absolutely point on.
I like how we do this to each other all the time. What triggered for me was asking the right questions, and I think, in general, we ask ourselves the wrong questions all the time, and we can ask ourselves better questions, get better results. It's the same thing with referrals, and so it's the idea, and I hated, and sorry for
Strong word.
Buffini, and I love Buffini, and I'm never too busy for referrals, but what happened is people water it down. They say, if you know of anybody looking to buy or sell, and we used to, and I've mentioned Dunbar's number in the past on a couple episodes, but there's typically only a handful of people that will share that information with us. Just like anything financial, certain things we're not privy. People don't want to share that stuff publicly. So I always talked about the triggers, and so when I ask a better question. I get better responses. So not just, hey, if you know anyone looking to buy or sell, like you said, do you know anyone who just got promoted, to a major management position? Do you know somebody whose partner just went into long-term health care? They may be looking to downsize. Somebody's going to become an empty nester, going back to planning, bragging, complaining. They will brag or, planning on retiring certain time frame. They may look to downsize, or the kids moving out. Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Well, see, as you know, if we're working with realtors and say, plan your, we used to call it elevator pitch, now it's like your sales pitch, right? Whatever you've coined that term.
Elevator pitch.
The biggest challenge is going to be avoiding the words anyone or someone.
Yes.
Because in my world, as a referral marketing person, anyone or someone is no one. It's too wide, right? And so but it's the hardest thing to avoid saying, and so it forces us to drill down deep and use planning, bragging, complaining, or pick. How many times do we say, I specialize in residential, commercial, downsizing, first-time home buyers, rental properties?
That's a lot of specializing.
Right. But the fear is if I don't cast that wide net, I'm going to miss that one, right? No. So we want to go as specific as we can, and there's no harm in having 4 infomercials in our tool belt. And have them practiced, refined, and catering it to the person that's in front of us,
that
right?
STP word.
What was that? What did I say?
Practice.
But he went a step further. He went practice and refine.
For sure.
And my, I'm not going to show anybody this, but my background, my profile as a refiner is part of it. But I want to just tell you one little secret about the Buffini line where I'm never too busy. There is a reason for that.
Oh, I know there is.
And everybody does it all the time. We all act too busy. We all go around like our hair's on fire, and people think that realtors are too busy. They make too much money. They don't need. Yeah,
it's easy, of course.
So it's easy. So so that's the other one. But the other line that I like to use is, who do you know? Rav, who do you know that could help me with that problem? Who do you know? You'll give me a name. It won't be a yes or a no answer. And
but there's going to be a pause, right? We can't talk ourselves out of that question like Rav would. I would ask it, then you start talking, nervous ramble, right? So it's pause. Who do you know? And give him a chance to.
And give him a chance to answer.
Yeah.
Right. So open it. We're getting down to the point of good questions. Drill down. Get good answers, and then work with those.
And the motto, B&I from the beginning, was givers gain.
Yes.
And that goes back to you had mentioned it a little bit, is I need to go in and not look just to get something off the hook, right?
Right.
I've used it being of service, and that's how I was raised. Like, it's sort of embedded in everything I've done. You've been a big community person as well. You're, as long as I've known you, being of service. But it's playing that long game and actually providing genuine value, and not looking at it as a transaction, because you want to have someone that's going to purchase properties from you more than once, hopefully.
And their family.
And exactly.
And their
investment properties and their cottage. Right. So It's the motto of what we do is givers gain. That if I help you, you're going to naturally want to help Eric. And in our referral, whether it's our coffee club, round and round it goes, we all do well. And so it's not just transactional based.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned it's not a buyer's club. And so I think that's key, is that, when you get into a group, if you are starting a group, if you're part of a group, is let's say there's 20 people around the table. That's great. So everybody, beginners always go in and hoping everybody in that group is going to buy from them.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like we say, like when you go approach somebody, some people, like I stayed in my last house for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't buying every 3 to 5 years. So, but the thing was, I could connect you with people who could put you in front of, if you were a realtor, I could connect you up with a mortgage agent who has tons of people to refer to you. And I think that gets lost on a lot of people. Would you agree?
It does. I do agree. And especially with financial services and real estate, there's a lot of people in the business, right? And so chances are somebody knows somebody. And so even within our chapters, we have a realtor. We offer exclusivity, so it's one realtor per chapter.
Right.
We have other members that have realtors in their family.
That's right.
But we're still playing the bigger game. It's still we can still benefit everybody in that rising tide analogy. But it's to your point, it could also be the realtor in the group has a certain specialty. They may want to work on triplexes or whatever the case may be. So we never want to discount those relationships. We never know who somebody knows.
That's right.
And by just supporting and being a giver, it ends up coming back in some way, shape, or form, whether it's through a connection or a referral.
And I want to, we're getting close to the end of the episode, but I do want to talk a little bit about, we called this episode "Who's in Your Room." So Ivan Meisner, founder of BNI, wrote a book called that. We used to talk a lot about your reputation's on the line when you refer somebody. So it's important to know who you're referring and ask all of the right questions. But explain a little bit about that whole "who's in your room," because wasn't it like one door?
It's basically whether you're bringing them into your professional circle. Right. So it could be a BNI chapter, it could be a coffee club, maybe you're meeting at the golf course once a week. Imagine that door being one way. So once that person's in that virtual room or physical room, there's a bouncer there and they can't get back out. So the biggest thing is their attitude, right? Are they positive individuals? Do you want to, are they going to be energy suckers, as Ivan Meisner calls it, right? That's huge. We don't want to be around negative individuals. There's enough negativity in the world. And so then it's also the caliber professional. Did you vet them? So we take that on, but maybe there's reference checks that you want to do and call some of their clients or check their social media reviews. So all these things go to who's in your room. Because once I refer to the electrician that you touched on, that's an extension of me.
That's right.
And I don't want them to embarrass me.
That's right.
And so we have to put in a little bit of work. It's like, going into the gym like you both touched on, to check the licenses of the electrician, to check the references, go on the social media. Are they, again, if they're in my client's house, are they going to be dragging mud and boots and embarrass me? Or are they going to be
butt cracks and...
Well, listen, So
it's the worst thing in the world to refer somebody and then they do a poor job or they're not careful.
Professional.
Well, then you're embarrassed, you're putting out a fire, everybody looks bad and you're like, red in the face.
It's not good.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important that you vet the people that you refer. And that's why working by referral is such a special thing, because by extension, it means when you refer them, they can expect excellent service, the same kind of service that you would provide. And people learn to depend on that.
And we've talked about it, and you're big on the brand, right?
Yeah.
And with that brand you create and you project. And so when you bring in people that you refer, do they match up with your brand?
They better.
It's important because they are an extension, because you are referring them. And again, your reputation's on the line. And so there's a lot of great things to be had with networking, generating that business so that you have others, especially if you're a lone agent. You're not alone. Now, as Rav
That's
said,
a great point.
You're a sales team, right? You're not having to sell on your own. And that's the idea of training your team to be able to sell you. And so I have to teach them to listen for certain cues. Here's what you can say in response, and just generate. And there are different levels of referrals. the basic is just a name and a number. They don't know that you're even going to reach out. But if, the next level is they know they're expecting a call, and then you can get up to that point where people are pretty much selling your services, but that's because you've built that relationship that they know enough about your business, right?
You touched on you touched on a whole lot.
Yes,
so the loneliness I'll touch on is a big one, especially during the last couple of years. I was working at home, 2 kids under the age of 5. You've got all the stuff of chaos. I'm bored of Zoom. The Zoom fatigue sets in as much as it's an amazing tool. And so this is a sales team that I wouldn't be able to hire. Like if I have a BNI chapter or a coffee club, I can't hire 5 sales teams. I'm a starting out realtor. But with just a little bit of effort, I'm now masterminding. They've gone through something that I maybe haven't gone through. We're sharing tools, we're sharing experiences. I'm getting uplifted because it's positive, like going back to who's in your room.
Yep.
And so I look forward to it. I'm looking forward to this Wednesday morning with these ladies and gents that I've handpicked. And so that sense of loneliness, if realtors are working from home, this is a way to get out of the house.
Yes.
A reason for putting on some pants and a jacket, right? and getting off Zoom and really masterminding with like-minded people.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Anything else to add here, Lynn?
Not to add, I just think it's fantastic, and it's great to hear it from your perspective and how it ties into our perspective as well.
Yep.
And what we're.
And so if anybody wants to join a BNI chapter, now I know that realtor spot is
The most coveted in the country? Yep.
So they pretty much do have to start their own chapter in most cases. Where does somebody go to find out who to talk to?
So this isn't my area, but I'm happy to connect. Just to your point, visitors are always welcome. So even if they find a chapter just to see what this is all about, and there's a realtor there, they're still welcome to attend. And if there's a cost for food, they can cover that cost. Rav at bniosw.ca. Rav at bniosw.ca. I'd be happy to connect any of your colleagues or your realtors to chapters across the country. I mean, there's 5,000 members, 250 chapters, and they're welcome to visit. There's no membership cost to go in and say hi to see what this is all about.
Yep.
And might not get referrals, but that it can at least see. Like I'd recommend the Burlington one at the golf club. 52 people, and they're just rocking it. And it's 90-minute meeting. They go through all their sales pitches, and it's a pretty well-oiled machine.
And in terms of somebody wanting to start up their own chapter, they get a lot of support and some guidance in that.
Yes.
And typically, how long does it take for, like, even if it wasn't BNI, somebody looking to get started? I mean, you are going to recommend it be regular meetings. Keeping track, but how long?
If it's off the cuff, well, I'd start off with finding 5 people at least if you're going to do it on your own. Invest at least, it's going to be an hour to 2 hours a week. But this is one of your marketing strategies. It's going to be one pipeline, right? Just like SEO, I'm not going to advertise on Google and get a referral tomorrow. No. It's going to be a long play. So to your point, I'd be making a few calls to my people that I know, mortgage agent, financial advisor, wills and estates lawyer, set up a coffee, again, just on your own, and look at investing an hour to 2 hours a week. And then to get an actual chapter, we're doing them in about 16 weeks. It all depends on, we do all the heavy lifting. It just depends on the level of connections of those in the room. Okay. So we launched, I won't say this here, we launched a second one in London in 16 weeks, and now we're halfway to our third one. So, but it does take that. Some people don't want to put in the hour a week, but if we look at it as an investment in our marketing plan and building our brand, an hour is going to be minimum.
And it's interesting you say that, because I look at it, I do a thing with team leaders, and I say a lot of them will take somebody just because they need a warm body. And you just don't want a warm body. You want somebody who's going to be long-term. Who, like you said, it's that same mindset. We believe in the same things. And if you're coming in and you just want that quick, you're a hunter, and I'm here to farm, I don't want that.
It turns people off, right? I mean, that used to work, but if we met today, if I get business cards from you both, it's just, there's no deep connection there for me to remember you. It's just another business card from another realtor. So you want to forge those personal connections, and through this type of networking, it's funny, you might not get along, but all of a sudden we find out that our kids play on the same soccer team, and now we're the best of friends. And now you're my realtor for life, right? So this is what you want to build, these relationships, and you start getting those connections.
Yeah, and I've mentioned before, having relationships, having a database that's a mile wide but only an inch deep. We want to go a mile deep. And so For all of you out there, if you are looking to generate business through referrals, definitely finding like-minded people, getting together and having a strategy. Have a strategy, whether you go towards BNI or start up your own thing, but have a strategy, figure out who's going to be in your room. As Rav said, it's once they're in, and there's no getting out. So if you start referring somebody and they reflect badly on you, man, that hurts. So be diligent, do all the checks, have that system of tracking what happens, be consistent in your efforts. You've heard us talk about that all the time, being consistent. So get out there, network, start generating some referrals. And if you have any questions, by all means, message us. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you like this episode. Follow us, subscribe to our channel. Reach out to Rav, reach out to any of us. And thank you for joining us here today on the Business of Real Estate podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.